Welcome to episode 114, Finding Tranquility with Kimberly Wilson. For 20 years, Kimberly Wilson has studied, practiced, and taught the art of tranquility. She is a psychotherapist, designer of an eco-fashion line, and host of the podcast Tranquility du Jour. Kimberly's mission is to help busy women find more tranquility and beauty in their everyday. She's the author of 6 lifestyle-focused books, as well as the creator of international retreats and online courses created with one goal in mind, helping you find more tranquility in your busy day. Kimberly is also president of the Pigs Pugs Project. Don't you just love that? She lives in Washington, D.C. with her rescue pugs and longtime partner while dreaming of Paris. I loved chatting with Kimberly. She is such a wealth of knowledge about tranquility and about helping women and just has such a big heart. So I look forward to sharing our interview with you. But first, have you ever wondered why some women seem to have style while others seem to struggle? Well, in my experience as a master style coach, I've discovered that there are 5 elements to style. And when you know them, you can master your style with ease. I've created a free download just for you, all around the 5 elements of style that, in my opinion, all women must know before getting dressed. In this download, you'll discover exactly what you need to know, what you need to focus on, and how it all works together. We believe that when you look great, you feel great. And when you feel great, anything is possible. So go grab this free download and get ready to dress like you mean it. You can find it at shopstylefinder.com. The link is in the show notes. Welcome to Style by Mary Michelle, a podcast designed to empower you through personal style. I'm your host, Mary Michelle Nidifer, a master style coach, founder of Style Finder Boutique, and creator of the Style Finder ID system. I'm here to help you know what to wear, how to wear it, and how to get dressed in 7 minutes or less. Let's go. Welcome, Kimberly. I am so thrilled to talk with you today.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. So tell us, let's start from the beginning. Tell us about your journey to actually starting Tranquility du Jour.
Absolutely. Well,
Dive
right into it. So it started with a yoga studio, Tranquil Space, that I had in the Washington, D.C. area for almost 20 years. I sold it at year 18. And then my first book came out, Hip Tranquil Chick, and I had a podcast at the time. That was 2005. It was a long time ago. And it was called Hip Tranquil Chick. And then when the book came out, I was like, okay, I need something that is like not just book related, not just yoga related. So kind of an overall idea. And I love French stuff. So that's where Tranquility du Jour evolved from. I was like, tranquility a la mode. I was like, what's a fun, sort of like French thing that goes with it? And I was like, du jour. And, because my whole thing is how do we find tranquility in the everyday? And so that's how it has evolved over the past, since 1999.
Wow, I love it. So you've been podcasting for quite a while.
I mean, what is that? I can't even do the math, but 2005. It's been a long time. Yes.
17 years?
17.
Is that right? Yeah, 17 years.
18?
That's a long.
17?
18?
Sure.
Anyway, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's interesting because your background is a psychotherapist.
Yes.
And so I'm sure you're working with people to, help them overcome their challenges. And your theme seems to be tranquility.
Mm-hmm.
Where does that come from? Where does the tranquility, the desire for tranquility come from?
Well, it stemmed off of the yoga studio, right? Tranquil Space. And as I was thinking, I was like, what is it I want people to experience whenever they walk into the studio, when they're led through a yoga practice? And that's where the idea of Tranquil Space came out. And then from there, everything I've done has had the tranquility theme. Now, what's funny is I don't bring it overtly into my therapy. So even though like my space is very much set up as a tranquil space in my office, with like tea and soft colors and gentle textures and, plants and flowers, things along those lines. I don't, I haven't really merged those kind of brands, so to speak. And whenever I sold the studio, that's whenever I went off to do the psychotherapy full time. So I've been at that since 2014, but full time since 2017.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful. Now, what does tranquility mean to you?
Yeah, that's a great question because, it's like if you look it up in the dictionary, right? It's like tranquility is the quality of calm. That's what the dictionary says. And so I've just kind of morphed it a little bit because, over the years, I have done a variety of things, like starting a nonprofit and writing books and international retreats, things like that. And I remember somebody saying, well, how is that tranquility, right? If you're like doing all these things. And so I was like, you know what? The idea really behind Tranquility du Jour is how do we find tranquility within a full and meaningful life? And when I say full, you can interpret that as busy, but I'm not really encouraging busy, but I am encouraging like, how do we continue to grow and evolve, right? And meaningful in the fact that ideally we're somehow making a difference, whether or not that's raising a family, raising rescue pets, starting a business, writing a blog, etc.
Right. I love it. And I feel like it seems like, after the pandemic, everybody was kind of thrown into this chaotic mode. It seems like there's more of a need for tranquility, if I can say it right.
I know. It's a tongue twister.
More of a need for tranquility now more than ever because we had the pandemic, we quarantined, we did our thing. And then even though we really decided we kind of like that way of life, I think a lot of us have just gotten back to the busyness of life. So I feel like in a lot of ways, there's more of a need for tranquility now more than ever. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It's funny. I just found a word for this. It's called soft something. It's like soft living maybe, but it's this whole idea of like, forget the hustle, forget the working when you're off work, forget the, this whole thing. Slow live. It's not slow living because slow living's been out for a while, but this is like a whole kind of like spin on the hustle, right? And I think it really did come out of the pandemic, people just being like, I want to be able to do my laundry whenever I'm home, working, or, I don't want to deal with like these weekend hours. If I don't have to, I want to have a life, right? And so I absolutely agree. I think tranquility, I think lifestyle in general, right, has been top of mind, particularly since the pandemic. And I think we kind of got used to a little bit, kind of liking, the slower pace, the less obligations. I remember an article coming out, this was maybe a year ago. And sorry, I keep shifting. I just had a hip replacement, so I'm like always adjusting. So my apologies. But, there was a Washington Post article and it came out and it was like why we are no longer doing the, every 6 month kind of dinners with people. It's like you realize during the pandemic, you're like, okay, I haven't seen that person in a while. Maybe I don't really need to keep in touch with them. Who do I want to keep in touch with? And I just thought that was so interesting because I've observed that and I've heard that a lot from people that are like, yeah, I've let this relationship go, or I've really focused on this relationship. So I do think it's helped us shift our values and our priorities. It's huge.
Absolutely. I think in a lot of ways, if you look at, we could look at the pandemic as happening to us, but if we look at it as it happening for us, like what are the good things that came out of it? And I think that's one is that we really get to look at our lives and reevaluate and decide, who do I want to spend time with? What do I want to dedicate time and effort and resources to doing? And
absolutely.
So many things have changed for so many people in so many ways. I know, our business has, our whole business model has just completely pivoted and things have been crazy, but it's been a wonderful thing. How do you feel like it affected your business?
Yeah, it's so interesting because as you were saying that, I'm like, oh, I'd like to hear more about how yours has shifted. And I would assume, this is just me assuming, but it's like you're not doing it as much in person. You're maybe doing more virtual, but
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
So it's just, I think it's for us. And I think for a lot of people, it's opened up. I mean, I think you really had a national or global audience before the pandemic. Am I correct?
small one,
And
but
so,
yes.
yeah, but I think for us, before the pandemic, we were just a brick and mortar. And then after the pandemic, we have clients all over the world now.
Mhm.
And so it really has been a beautiful thing to come out of it. But I think it took that being forced to make that leap, to make it happen.
Totally. I mean, I remember an ad, and this was like early on in the pandemic when, it's like we really couldn't do much. We couldn't even really go outside because I never really watch TV that has commercials, but there was this great commercial. It was maybe for American Express something, but it showed like a brick and mortar business, having to get used to like shipping out and getting their, e-commerce kind of set up. And I was like, that sounds, I don't know their shipping, but it sounds like something very kind of similar to your experience and definitely to mine also, because in the past, rarely ever, I don't know that I did video sessions. Sometimes we did calls, right? If they just like could not make it in, it's like snowing or something, but they still wanted their session. And now I let go of my office for a couple of years, and then I got an office last July. So a year, we've been at it a year now. I would say I see 10% of my clients in person. The majority still want to do video.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Huge thing. No, you do a lot of retreats also, and those are virtual. Now, how has that shifted with the change in the landscape?
Totally. Well, it's so funny. Okay. For years, 20 years, I did international in-person retreats, right? And even 2020 in June, I had 2 set up, one for Provence, one for Paris. Paris was sold out. We still had a couple spots for Provence. And then, of course, I had to cancel them. And everything that went involved with setting them up and then having to cancel them, I was like, I don't want to do these anymore. I would never have stopped doing these 20 years of doing them and be like, I don't want to do them. If I go to Provence or Paris, I want to go. Like, I just want to go and do my own thing. And so that was an interesting shift for me. So no more. I mean, am I going to say I'm never going to do an in-person retreat again? I won't say that, but it's not on my radar at all. Big shift. But the virtual retreats I had been doing maybe since 2016. And, and those were like this idea of, again, like people being able to come together, retreat, from the comfort of their own home, for a few hours on a weekend day. And they really increased in popularity, of course, in 2020, because we were like, I don't have anything else to do. But I kept them up, and now they're seasonal. And so like I have another one in the fall, and then the next one will be New Year's Day. And, and they're really kind of just a sweet, like 3 hours where we really drop in. We do some reflection. How's the past season felt for you? What are your dreams for the new season? What about those New Year's dreams? Are those still like in your head? Like, are you still thinking about those? Or have you let some go, and that's okay too? So those are really fun, again, because people can join from all over. I think maybe, we've had some from Europe, Mexico, Canada, of course, but I would say that's probably as far as the virtual retreats have expanded because of time zone issues, but it's really nice.
Yes. And I loved hearing that you recently remodeled your, what do you call it? The Pink Palace?
Pink Palace.
And that I love how you tell all your stories on your podcast. I so have enjoyed your podcast, but I loved hearing that you had women there. I mean, literally from all over the world.
Yes.
And I think I think so many people are just so excited to get together in person again. And so that speaks volumes to what you did.
Totally. And I have the screen behind me because I'm at my partner's place in West Virginia, which is not very pink. And so otherwise I would not have the screen. But yes, no, it was a really fun project. I'd lived there for 18 years, 600 square feet, tiny, right? It had been remodeled in the 80s. And so it had like the white, like pressed board cabinets, I mean, it was fine. But then I was like, we're here a lot because, we are working from home a lot. Me, my partner, and my 3 rescue pets, right? That's a lot in 600 square feet, especially working from home. And then, so yeah, I met with some designers, kind of contractors last May of 2021, and they finished May of 2022. And it wasn't like massive overhaul. It was like kitchen and bathroom gutted and rebuilt. It was kind of it. And then some paint and flooring. But, they started into January. It took like 3 or 4 months, which is, not horrible, but it's so funny. Anyone who's listening, who's been through a renovation, the challenges. It's like weird to be displaced, to have all your stuff like pushed up against walls, covered in plastic from the dust, but the end result is it's just like, every time I go and I walk in, it's like really light colored wood flooring, and it's bright. It's a really light kind of pink and then like a champagne-y color on the walls. So it's just like, I really need light, lots of natural light. So yeah, it's been fun. And brass fixtures, all those sorts of things that are just like fun little French flair touches.
Oh, it sounds gorgeous. It sounds gorgeous. Well, I have to tell you, I actually have a trip planned to Paris next month. And I am so excited. And I heard your podcast about your last trip, and I've put some of the things that you mentioned on my list.
Yes. When are you going to be there? Because I'm going to be there next month too.
Are you? I'll be there September 2nd through the 9th.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm not sure if this podcast is coming out before then or after then, but I can wait. When will you be there?
End of the month. I'm not allowed to travel for like 8 weeks, right? And so that's like right at the 8-week mark. I was like, that is my reward. I'm going back to Paris. I'm taking a sketchbook workshop. So I'm really excited. But good for you. Paris is amazing. I have a whole page too that I can send you that has like my list of all my favorite things. I'll send that to you.
Thank you. Kimberly, let's talk about, I know with Tranquility, I will try so hard to say that right.
It's not
with
easy.
Tranquility du Jour, you have your 5 tenets, and I love these. But one, especially, do you want to tell everybody what they all are? And then there's one especially I'd like to dive into, and that's style.
Of course. Okay, so they are, I just realized for years, I've had artists, authors, activists kind of on the podcast. And I just was like, okay, what is Tranquility du Jour? Like, how do I really kind of narrow it? Where, a lot of the topics or things that I've shared over the years or written can fall under a certain umbrella. So people know what they're going to get, right? And so that's where I came up with wellness. That includes, of course, self-care and financial wellness, nutritional wellness, like all that good stuff. There's compassion, because like animal welfare is super close to my heart. And if you hear something snoring, it's my little 14 and a half year old pug stuck right down here. He's such a sweetie. And then of course, style, which we can definitely talk about. Creativity has always been really kind of like a big piece for me. How do we live a more creative life? I had read the book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I don't know if you've read that.
Yes, I have.
So good. And that kind of set me on a journey of like, we're all artists, And then the last one is mindfulness, right? So it's this idea of, of course, that includes meditation, but it's also like, how do we live a more mindful life? Like we're aware of how our actions are affecting the environment, ourselves, people we're in relationship with, things along those lines. So yeah, those are the 5 tenets.
I love it. And I love that they're well-rounded, and that, really tranquility can be so many different things. But I think these different aspects, finding tranquility in your skincare routine or in your style or expressing your creativity, and it helps you to be more peaceful.
Yes.
I know, I guess I'm a creative person. And if I'm not being creative, not that I'm creative all the time, but if I'm not being creative, it's like, ooh, something's missing.
Totally.
So definitely we need that. But style,
Yes,
tell me,
style.
I want to hear your perspective on how style can help us to have a more tranquil life.
Well, it's funny, like I'm looking right past here and I've got this beautiful vase filled with peonies, that I
Oh,
bought
so
for
gorgeous.
myself. Oh my God, they're so gorgeous, right? I bought for myself earlier this week because I was just like, I think of style a lot like beauty too, So when I say style, I realized like for 20 years, I've had a clothing line. And the idea is initially was like, how can I wear clothes to yoga and then out on a date or to a meeting or something along those lines without having to like completely like shift, my whole look. And it's a lot about layering and whatnot. Well, anyway, then it kind of evolved into also thinking about how do you show up in the world? Like, I believe that, the way we show up, the way we dress tells a story about who we are. Right?
Yeah, you're speaking my language.
Okay, good. And how we want to be seen. It's funny, there was an article that came out again at the start of the pandemic that was by a style writer for the Washington Post. And it was basically like your clothing is your message to the world. So it's saying who you are without you having to say. And it was like, what is our message when we're all wearing sweatpants? Because that was, of course, we weren't going out. We were just wearing, our home clothes. And then, of course, athleisure and loungewear and everything became very popular. But anyway, so I think of style is like, the way we decorate our home, our office, the things that we wear. Like I usually have a scarf, it's like little things like that. Like you'll never see me without red lips, cat eyes. Like they're just kind of my like signature go-to, and black. I only wear black. You look so beautiful in all your color and your pink wall behind you. And then like buying myself things like peonies because I want a little treat, So I really do think there's a wonderful book called The Psychology of Fashion, and it's written by a therapist. And, and she has a quote that says, mood and style or mood and fashion are interrelated,
Yes.
So that's my take.
One of the biggest trends this year, it was really hot for spring and continues to be hot. It's called dopamine dressing.
Oh, I love that.
I don't know if you've heard about that, but dopamine is the happy hormone.
Yes.
And a lot of it is associated with wearing bold colors, bright colors, color blocking, but not everybody is a color person. But it's really about getting clear on what makes you happy, like wearing those things that light you up, whether it's your beautiful, comfortable black layers, or it's a colorful kimono, or it's your, red lips, or I always do magenta lips.
Yeah.
Or gotta have a lipstick.
Totally.
But whatever it is that makes you feel more like yourself and that makes you happy. And I think there's a lot that can be said about finding tranquility when you find that connection. When you can connect to who you are. I like to say what you wear tells the world who you are.
Yes.
And it absolutely tells your style. And then when you can look at who you are on the inside and reflect that in your clothes, it makes all the difference. Now, totally. Kimberly, I have to be honest with you. And I will tell you, I tell a lot of my clients not to wear black.
Yeah.
But here's why. And I think you do it so beautifully. What I've found is that a lot of women tell me they wear black because they don't know what else to wear.
Interesting. Yeah.
But you wear it with such beautiful intention. Like clearly it is a power color for you. You feel great in it. And you wear it. And I've seen some of your pictures on your Instagram, which you guys have to go follow her on Instagram. Is it Tranquility du Jour?
Exactly.
On Instagram. Yes. Go follow Kimberly on Instagram because you'll see all her pictures of like Paris. But I love seeing some of your pictures. I think it was in Paris and you had on your black, but then you popped it with your red shoes.
Oh, right. Yes. Yes.
Like, that's so fun. And that's where you get to inject your personality. But so many women have told me over the years that they wear black because they don't know what else to wear.
Mm.
And so you certainly do not do that. And I love it. I love it. But
yeah. Go ahead.
yes. Yeah. So there is so much psychology. And I think as a psychotherapist, I'm sure you know that. But there is so much psychology around what we wear.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you feel that we could find more tranquility in getting dressed?
I like that. And I love, who knew there's dopamine dressing? How am I not aware of this? I'm going to have to look into that. I love it.
So good.
And, just one thing kind of about the black, because it's funny, I never thought that people would wear it because they didn't know what to wear. So that's really interesting. To me, yes, it's a power color, but it's also an armor of sorts. Like, it helps me feel like somewhat hidden, like, I don't know, like theater, black curtains, it's like I'm there. You'll see the pop of color, right, in the lips or the neck or the shoes, right? But otherwise, I just am kind of like, I don't know, like helps me kind of disappear.
You're only showing what you want to show.
Totally. And it's definitely comfortable. If I put on color, like, I feel so exposed, almost like I'm naked. So it's really interesting, isn't it? How different we are.
It is. Well, it's interesting because I actually wear a ton of black. And it's funny because I do. I love black. I put on black and I'm like, yes, because it can be a power color. But women have told me for years, as I've spoken around the country, I wear black because I don't know what else to wear. I'm like, okay, well, let's find a way for you to wear it. So I help my clients know how to wear black so it works for them and not against them.
Love it. So smart. Yes. And, it's like, how do you have your staples, right? Your, I'm big about like capsule wardrobe, just you're like, you have things that they all fit together and, you can dress them up, you can dress them down, do all this. So when I think of like tranquility and, kind of like daily dress up, I'm all about comfort. I mean, if it doesn't stretch or if it isn't soft, it's like, I can't imagine a world like that. Like, it's just so uncomfortable. I am a highly sensitive person. And so texture is everything. You too? Yeah. Okay. Nice. We see each other. And too, whenever you go to a closet, I've read that we don't typically wear about 80% of what's in our closet. And
that is true.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, and so you go to your closet and you're like, I don't know what to wear, but you have a closet full of clothes. And so to me, finding tranquility with that is like, all right, I have my go-to. I have like my uniform that I pretty much wear every day. And then I just dress it up or down, even seeing clients. I mean, it's really great. But
tell us about your uniform.
Totally. So it's this little top, which you can probably see. It's like it has a low back and a high neck. And what I love about this is, you can reverse it. So if I wanted a low, a scoop, and then a high back. Very nice. And then it's got, like really long sleeves. And then I, push them up as needed. And then the other piece is like leggings, right? Which I know you're like, leggings, but leggings are so great, like dressed up. An example is, you put on tall boots, even in the summer, like I'll wear tall boots with it, totally dresses it up. Also, little clogs with it, those little heels that you mentioned. I love those. I can't wait to wear things like that again when my hip is healed. But and it just transforms it. And then you can add like a blazer or, something along those lines that just transforms your typical outfit. But then I'm also ready for a yoga class or a ballet class. I don't have to change, so comfort, stretch, soft, but also decision making, because we don't want to spend our morning going like, okay, what do I wear? Right. There's only so much like decision making kind of power that we have in a day. It's like a muscle, and if we fatigue it in the morning going like, oh my God, I have all these clothes. What do I wear? I'm not wearing them. I bought that. Why am, on sale? Why am I not wearing it? And then you're like, oh my God, you're exhausted by like 8 a.m.,
I know. And then you walk out of the house with that energy and, it just colors your whole day.
It does.
So I think decision fatigue when it comes to your clothing is a real thing.
Totally.
And I've been a style coach for 14 years, and I've worked with so many women who are like, oh my God, I stand in front of my closet. I don't wear a lot of my clothes, but I've got so much stuff in there that I can't even see the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see what I want to wear. And then they're just finally they pull on something and they feel frustrated. But your idea of the capsule wardrobe, that's something that we actually teach our clients as well. We're huge, huge, huge believers in capsules. Now, I personally, do I have a capsule wardrobe? No. I have a lot of clothes because I love clothes.
Yeah.
But I do have wardrobe capsules within my wardrobe.
Yes. Yes. Love it.
So, and it does help to streamline things. And when you can walk in and and one philosophy that I teach my clients is about, I'm actually in the process of writing a book about color. And one philosophy that I teach is about creating a color capsule. And so when you have a color capsule, then you can build a wardrobe capsule with these few colors, and then everything just mixes and matches.
Mm-hmm. So smart.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But I love it's almost like a hybrid wardrobe. It seems that goes from work to exercise. And I've been exercising a little bit more, and I've been starting to think more about that because I don't like having to change clothes 2 or 3 times a day. And if I could just pull on something and then have that on, I'm like, maybe I do need to go a little bit more minimalist as I get older.
It helps, it just, but I love what you said. I mean, for people who are listening and are like, I don't want to get rid of all my clothes. It's like, I love your idea of like a capsule kind of within your overall wardrobe. I mean, I think that's so smart. And particularly when you're packing, when you're going to Paris, honey, the capsule, right? You want
and black.
And black. Yes.
Does everybody really wear black in Paris?
I mean, there's a lot of black. I feel really comfortable. It's like, I feel really like part of it. Black,
right.
New York, Paris, Zen, and ballet, all black. Like, I love it. But yeah, it's like really when you're packing, I mean, think of how much time it can take people to pack. I had a client recently show up in my office before she was going to go on the train to another city. For 5 days, she had this little bitty bag. I mean, little, like not even probably this big bag.
Oh my
gosh. Then another like tiny bag. And I was like, is that what you're taking? And she was like, yeah. I was like, and she was like, would you believe I have 2 pairs of shoes in there? I was like blown away. I'm like, you need to do a video. But, roll your clothes, all those little tricks. Right. But yeah, this will be good for you. The Paris trip to like.
Yes. I think it's the toiletries that are tripping me up the most. Yeah. I'm like, how do I not take like all my hair stuff, all my products, but.
Totally.
And then I don't know that I can just run out and get something if I need. So anyway, but I'm going to really, it's been a long time since I've been to Europe. So I'm going to be really strict with myself and force myself to just be streamlined. Yes, although my husband's convinced me, he's like, you need to check a big bag because you're going to want to bring things back. I'm like, oh yes, I am. I want to do some shopping.
Totally. And you probably know this, but the pharmacies there had the most amazing beauty products, like so many great facial. I'm like obsessed with face serums these days, but serums and moisturizers. And I can send you like my favorite brand, but it's just like, it's ridiculous, how much stuff you can find there that is like really reasonably priced and lovely. Yeah.
Yes. Well, Paris is such a wonderful, inspirational, beautiful, and amazing place. And, we don't need any more reasons to love it. But what draws you to Paris? What's your personal connection?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. After college, how many years ago was that? A long time ago, 1995, I backpacked through Europe with a girlfriend. And, we went to a bunch of different European cities. And I remember when we got to Paris, I was like, what is this? And we just happened to be there for Bastille Day, and so it was just like such a sweet experience. And everything was just, I'm a big attention to detail person, and everything, just the attention to detail, even the ads in the subway, in the metro, have like this ornate, like gold, like Baroque kind of trim around them. You're just like, everything is gorgeous and really well attended. And that there was just something about that I really, really liked. I grew up in Oklahoma, and I don't feel like everything was beautiful and well attended, and so that was just like a complete like shift of eye opener. And so that was 1995. And then I didn't go back until 2009. But around that time, I was doing a ton of reading, about Paris. And that was when I feel like a lot of Paris stuff was very popular, and wearing my little Eiffel Tower necklace and taking French classes and like never getting anything. They were always like, you need private lessons. So, but then I went, and then I've gone, at least once or twice a year, pretty much ever since, and led a lot of retreats there, writing retreats and things along those lines. But this year I will be there 3 times, which is insane. Wow. Like that's never happened. And it's just been because there were certain things that were happening there that I wanted to go to. But I just love it. When I get there, I'm just happier. I don't know what it is. There's the quality. This is it. Kind of as we think Capsule Wardrobe, we think style, the quality of life there, the way they live, the farmers markets, the fact that they get things from the market. They really love their food. It's just like, they appreciate, they really, I think style is very important there. But not in a showy, like, oh, I need my little Louis Vuitton bag. Like I don't sense that at all. It's more of just like an air of confidence, it's I could go on and on, but and you will have a wonderful, wonderful time.
Yeah. Well, it's always like a less is more approach, kind of like the capsule wardrobe you're talking about. Is that less is more, you don't need quite as much, but it's better quality and you're buying what you need.
Yes, totally.
And I think when less can free up so much time and space. And sometimes I feel like between my husband and myself, we've had 4 kids, and 3 of them have flown the nest. And sometimes I'm like, our house is too big. We don't need this much space. We don't need this much stuff. We don't need and I find myself spending more time than I would like taking care of it. Like, no, I'd rather be traveling.
Totally. No, I love that. I love what you just said, that less is more. Like I typically will stay in Airbnbs when I'm there. And I remember showing up, one time to the Airbnb, and I'm like, where is the silverware? Like they're very good at using all their space, almost like on a boat where people, there's not much space. So every nook and cranny has something. And then I finally found the silverware in the table. Like there was a drawer under the table. Oh, wow. I would never have thought to look there. Genius though, because very handy. But it's just the way in which they work within those tiny spaces, and it's all about like really nice quality things, so I love that.
Sure. Now, speaking of quality of life, how do you feel, or I should rephrase that, what do you think the correlation is between tranquility and quality of life?
I think they are, right? So I love what you said. And I think that I should say this, but I wonder if from the pandemic, many people are considering downsizing. I mean, there's been, at least there was initially like an influx of people leaving the city and going to the country. And so I feel like in order to have more tranquility, it's not about accumulating more things, right? So I think that takes us back to the less is more approach. Even how you said, and this is really interesting, you read this, the data shows that wealthier people who have a lot of things to maintain, boats, homes, stuff like that, are not as happy. And the reason being, it's so much maintenance. I mean, think what it is just to maintain like my 600 square feet. There's always something,
Right.
And so imagine if you had that much more, and plus additional homes. And you can have staff maybe who are maintaining it, but you have to manage them. Like that's so complicated, right? And so to me, like less is more, quality over quantity ties in beautifully with tranquility. Now, not everyone is going to feel that way. Maybe to them, tranquility is like big, big stuff, lots of stuff. But I don't know if I would qualify that necessarily under the quality of calm within a full and meaningful life,
It's kind of hard to feel calm when your space is chaotic. Or I know if I walk into my office, actually our kitchen yesterday, I had to get into my kitchen because we have had a crazy busy week. And there were some dishes and there was some mail stacked up and some plants that I needed attending to. I'm like, all right, it just makes me crazy. And I feel like it takes away from my focus. It takes away from my tranquility. And it's hard to relax when you're surrounded by so much stuff. So for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I think that's a beautiful way to kind of put that together of like quality, less, and tranquility, right? Where you have like a place for things, Yeah.
Yeah. Kimberly, let's switch gears here. I'd love to hear about the Pigs and Pugs Project.
Oh, absolutely. So in 2006, I got together with a group of people and we created Tranquil Space Foundation, right? And so, because I just wanted to have a nonprofit arm, something where we could, do more for the community. And within that, we created a curriculum called Tranquil Teens, and it was all about bringing creativity, leadership, and what was the third thing? It was creativity and yoga. Okay, to girls, and we did that for my gosh, maybe almost 10 years. And then we created kind of like a pilot program and a larger curriculum that you can download actually off of our website now, kind of under history. It talks about that's where we began. But then I found that I thought I'd like working with teen girls, but I didn't really love it. I was like, it's so complicated now being a teen girl. Like I just don't relate. And it's hard, it's hard to get people to lead the programs, and it's hard to find the girls who would be interested in the programs. So anyway, in 2016, it's like, okay, well, what direction do we go? And animal welfare is so important to me. And I've kind of been obsessed with pigs since I adopted my first one, maybe in like 2009. JD, he had been washed down a little kind of river and ended up somewhere near the farm sanctuary. And he was brought in as like a little piglet and grew to the size of a couch. He was beautiful. And it was fun to meet him. But anyway, he was my first foray into pigs. And since then, I've kind of been obsessed. And then pugs, we got a pug in 2004, Louie. And the love of my life. And now we have like rescue pugs, Gizmo, who's behind me, and then Mookie, and then we had Belle Star, all from an Oklahoma pug rescue. Because, honey, the person who runs it, she was like, they fall from the trees here, like they're everywhere. Because we're like, we can't get pugs, in DC. It's like there's a small rescue here that pugs go quite quickly. So anyway, we were like, oh, it's a great alliteration, pigs and pugs, right? And so what we do, we're a small board, 3 of us, me, my partner, and then a dear friend I've known since college named Heather. And then what we do is we've had events, like until the pandemic, we were having like 3 events a year, yoga and the animals at an animal sanctuary. I'd lead a yoga class. We get to meet all the animals. And then Pugs and Pints at a brewery, and then Pigs, Pugs, and Pinot at a winery. And so that was, really fun events. And we're thinking of doing one this fall, maybe like Pugs in Paris. Heather found a kind of French themed place that allows dogs on the patio. So anyway, but the main thing we do besides events is awareness raising. Like we did a screening of the film, The Last Pig, which is just beautifully shot. And it's a pig farmer who like wakes up one day and he's like, I think what I'm doing is wrong. And he wrote an article for Scientific Farmer or something like that. Anyway, the documentarian found him and then shot him as like he was down to the last few pigs. and they went to sanctuaries. So it's really beautiful. But the big thing we do, and I even just did it yesterday, is we give micro grants. So from the sale of my yoga studio, I put quite a bit of money into the nonprofit. And Houston, there's a beautiful pug rescue there, Houston. They've taken in 171 pugs in the last 100 days. I mean, you can't even wrap your head around that. That's like insanity, right? And so I give a lot to them and other places. And what we do just what are called micro grants. And it's just like, I'll see on Instagram, I'm like, they need, there's a need, they need more hay, and then just little bits here and there. And so that just makes me feel really, really good. So that's Pigs and Pugs Project.
Yes, that's so fabulous. I love that. Giving back is always a wonderful thing.
Oh my God, it feels so good.
Yes. Kimberly, is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I think you've done a really good job. You're a great interviewer. I think we have covered a lot. I really appreciate touching on the tenants and Pigs and Pugs. And if it would be like, okay, what am I working on now?
Yeah.
Continuing to grow Pigs and Pugs would be definitely a goal. Working on a memoir that I've been working on for quite a while. Yeah, which is kind of fun because it's a completely different way of writing. I've written quite a few nonfiction books, but this is, of course, written more like a fiction book, even though it's a true story. But it's talking about how you spend, and you may relate to this because it sounds like you came into kind of style coaching more recently, like you haven't been doing this your whole career, potentially. But, so it's like this idea of when you start something, like I started a yoga studio in my mid-20s, and then, you're running it and you get what you want with it. And then you're like, this isn't what I want. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Right. And you transition. It's like, how do you let that go? How do you break that apart, still keep what you've created intact, but you're able to move on, and just all the challenges, associated with that kind of mentally, emotionally, physically, the whole shebang. So that's what the memoir is. And then the other big thing. Yeah. Because I hope that people can relate to this idea of you create something, like no matter what it might be, or you accumulate, all this stuff. And then you're like, this isn't bringing me joy. How do I make a change that's more authentic to who I am now? Doesn't mean that wasn't right for me then. It was, but now I want to break it apart. And then the other thing is just the coterie. And this is a year-long program that I do. And I'll be doing that again starting in January. And we've got a really lovely group now. And again, that's, global. And that's a really fun experience of working together monthly on different topics. And we have virtual retreats and a really beautiful workbook and things like that. And that's where I've been putting a lot of my heart and soul, over the past couple of years. So those are my projects in the work.
Oh, that's great. Well, I love what you said, and I totally resonate with that because I don't know if you know this about me, but I actually started my career as a fashion designer.
Oh, I don't.
And so I designed clothing for about 12 years, and then I had kids, and there was another calling. But it was interesting because I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the woman that was speaking, she was talking about the whole cycle of things and how I can't remember all the steps, but it was like you build something and then you nurture it and then you grow it and then it starts to unravel.
Yeah.
And I thought, that, and the cycle just repeats itself. And so I think it's just natural, especially for women. Like we're always birthing things and evolving to what's next. And it just like one thing just leads us into the next thing. And it's just such a beautiful way of expressing ourselves creatively.
It is.
So I love that. But yeah, you're writing your memoir. Like yoga led you to fashion design, which led you to become a psychotherapist. So, but it's all connected, and then you bring it all together in Tranquility du Jour. You bring all the different facets that make you you, and that's amazing. I love that you do that.
Thank you. And I love that podcast. I love that you just mentioned kind of the idea around it, because I think it's really hard for people to let go of what they've spent a long time creating. Like, I wonder for you, with fashion design, was it hard to let that go? Even if you're kind of done with it, and you're ready to move on, it's your identity. It's what people know you for. It's, it's like there's so much wrapped into it that I think is really hard for people to make shifts. But I think there's a lot of shifting happening with the pandemic in particular.
And I know we're going a little bit longer, but I think just to touch on that briefly, I think with the pandemic, so much has shifted. But I think in so many ways, we're being called to change and open up and evolve.
Yes.
And so fighting the change is not going to bring you tranquility, but really stepping into it, even if it's the unknown or it's scary or it's big and crazy. It's just I think that's where I've found my tranquility, is stepping into. In fact, we just got some news yesterday. I can't reveal it yet, but a big leap that we're going to be making that I would never have planned for or never have thought is going to be happening in the next couple of months with the business. And I'm like, okay, I didn't ask for this. I'm not necessarily ready for it, but the universe has said otherwise. So I'm just going to go with the flow. But the podcast, I'll give her a shout out. Her name is actually Tara Marino, and her podcast is called Beautiful Soul-Led Life.
Love it.
And I don't remember. It was one of her recent episodes, but I thought, well, that's such a great way, just her whole cycle. And I think you'd resonate with her. She's all about beauty as well. So
nice. Thank you. I will check her out.
Yes. Well, you have to go connect with Kimberly on Instagram at Tranquility du Jour, and you can find information about her coterie, about her fabulous eco clothing line, and all the books that she's written and all the things that she does at KimberlyWilson.com. And I will be sure to put those links in the show notes. Kimberly, thank you so much for being here today. It has been truly a pleasure to talk with you.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me. This was a treat. I feel like we could have gone on and on. So
yes.
Thanks for tuning in to Style by Mary Michelle, where women come to get dressed in 7 minutes or less. If you enjoyed this podcast, I invite you to leave me a 5-star review on iTunes or wherever you're listening. Be sure to follow me on Instagram. It's Style by Mary Michelle, and shop our boutique at shopstylefinder.com for the best in upscale casual apparel. Better yet, if you're in the Raleigh area, come see us. We're located in the North Hills Shopping Center, the premier shopping district in Midtown Raleigh. For details and links mentioned in this episode, be sure to see the show notes. Have a beautiful week.